Welcome to teleSUR English. We're going to Cuba, where President Miguel Diaz-Canel is offering statements. Let's listen.
Well, he has decided to dedicate one of its close agenda to answer questions that you bring. Do not present if you want to introduce yourself, the dialogue, only just to express my greetings. And you are interested, I was interested in having this meeting. There is concern in the population according to the recent events or the outrageous calumnies against our people. They try to impose in this moment the government USA. And I have the opportunity to kind of explain the projections, the ways that we are trying to come out of this situation in the shortest time possible, and this position that we have. You were saying that you have a very important meeting that have given us a group of priorities and valorations. So the political committee, the Council of Ministers and the National Council of Defense. And we had a meeting with the Minister Council to actualize a particular plan in the Minister Council and the direction of the government to face a very deep problem with the oil in Cuba. I give the word to my colleagues. I'm going to start with Oliver Zamora, that he wanted to ask about the situation from the 3rd of January on. Oliver Zamora on Russia Today. I greet my president. Two issues. I would like to ask about two issues. First, about the collapse rhetoric that has come from the U.S. government and the President Donald Trump and repeated by the media after what happened on January the 3rd. I would like just to, if you can deepen, which is really the level of dependence that existed between both governments. And a second topic, it is the wave of solidarity that Cuba has received, to know if that solidarity so far in the speech has to become in a practical one. Okay, Oliver. Well, I think that the theory of collapses and the insistence on this theory, it is with the failure state and a group of construction of the government of USA trying to characterize the situation in Cuba. And precisely that theory of collapses is associated to one of the streams of the directions in which the United States is doing just to overthrow the Cuban Revolution. So the suffocation, economic suffocation, since the 60s with the memorandum and the military situation, it is always emphasizing a declaration of the U.S. president in the last times. In a phrase, he said that they have applied against Cuba all possible pressures, acknowledging that there is not a failure in the state, but there is a state that have to face with resilience and the maximum pressures, not from anyone, from the economic suffocation of the main economic power in the world, a power that has an imperial basement and a hegemonic proposal. And the other is the military aggression, when they say that there is nothing else to do that was to take the place and destroy it completely. And I think that in our history, in the 77 years of revolution, with the crude blockade and this theory of economic suffocation that we have lived, all generations of Cubans that were born in the first years of the revolution till the current ones, our kids, we live blockaded. We live under the sign of this economic suffocation. And we have already had great difficulties. We have to work amid scarcities and pressure that were not imposed to anyone in the world in this way for such a long time. And here we have the example that we have lived. What happened is that I think that collapsus is in the philosophy, in the mentality of the empire, but not in the Cuban West. Collapsus cannot be associated to pressure of the imperial government. In the vision, in our vision, facing the collapse, we have resilience. The resilience of the people that have to deal with defending the ideas, defending the convention in which we think on the victory forever. And I am not an idealist when I know that we have lived a very difficult time, particularly this one that we are living right now. They are very difficult. But we are going to overcome with the help of everyone, of all Cubans, the majority of the Cubans. The relation of Venezuela was not a dependent relation when many people are saying that this is a dependent relation between two countries. What they do is reduce to an exchange of merchandises and benefits, and that is the real relation that we have with the Bolivarian Revolution. That Chavez headed the Bolivarian Revolution. There was we confirm a cooperation relation with solidarity principles, above all integration, to complement how two friend countries could make use of their powers in functioning this situation. That's why 25 years ago began this collaboration that has to deal with many spheres: food, education, health, to literate the formation of very there are things that have to do with industry, mining, telecommunications, with the cultural exchange, with the political exchange too. And this goes beyond the relation between Cuba and Venezuela. In this relation, remember that 4 years after Alba TCP came up and was to take all this convention to a group of countries in the Latin America and the Caribbean zone. And after that, Alba TCP also created Petrocaribe, who was with an energy project towards equity, opportunities, and social projects, and the benefit of the development of the people, not only Venezuela and Cuba, but also the Latin American and the Caribbean peoples. And it is reflected, the concept of integration, the integration that was the dream of Martí and Bolívar and was defended by Fidel and Chavez, and we are all just committed because there are many Cubans, millions of Cubans that had gone to missions in collaboration mission. In another occasion, I have explained, and it's because I feel it, that there is not integration, regional integration bloc that have done in a few time the success that have achieved Alba TCP that came after this close relation between Cuba and Venezuela. Remember that there is something very, very important that was the Milagro mission that gave back the vision to millions of people that have no vision, with diseases that could be cured, not with a commercial or richness aim, but equity. With a Cuban method, yes I can, of literacy, in that concept of integration for countries, succeed and erase illiteracy in their countries, and they will declare free of illiteracy. These are social conquers that everybody want to have. Look, in Latin America and the Caribbean, since Cuba was the first territory free of illiteracy in Latin America, how many years crossed by for another 4 countries could achieve this, and they were achieved with this concept of complement in a system of relations not based on selfish but precisely based on these concepts that are humanitarian concepts, and they are focused in not leaving anyone behind. Of course, in here we need relations, economic relations, collaborations, very important ones. The energy ones and the health services. Some of the fuel was very important amount of fuel was given to cover the necessities of our country. But nowadays, they did not cover everything, but remember that Venezuela was submitted to sanctions. Venezuela is submitted to coercive measures, to pressures, and this affected also that exchange that was very wide, but never just reached the levels of other times. And now it is very affected when began the energy blockade to Venezuela that have impelled that Venezuelan and other countries' vessels come to Cuba, and it is heightened right now with the executive order of the government of USA that was manipulating through threats of aranzels to people that do it with Cuba, and this is an energy blockade. The future of relation in Venezuela is in the way that we are able to build this future from the present time. Venezuela that has been attacked, that was illegally kidnapped his president and his wife, and they are kept in a prison in USA. We in the collaboration is we do not impose collaboration. We give collaboration, we share collaboration, we share solidarity when a government, when people of nations ask us for it. And under that concept we have kept during this year this trade collaboration. All of us know that Martí says when he said we have commitment with that Venezuelan land and feelings, very deep feelings, and meanwhile the government do collaboration with Cuba. Cuba is ready to collaborate. The other question has to do with the support. Well, immediately there was international support. There are different opinions of spokesperson, ministries, movements that gather different countries. I have a list, a chronology of all a group since February 1st, how many support signals we have received from different movements. Maria Zaharova, the spokeswoman from the Russian Federation, she has come out during this day. The Russian ambassador in the United Nations, Rashida Saeed from Palestinian origin, a representative in Michigan, the Laos, the spokesman from the China, and the Eurodeputies from Spain, the Secretary General of the South African Party, the President of Claudia Sheinbaum, who's in every morning, she answers questions that have to do with the position of Mexico and its endorsement to Cuba, the Foreign Ministry of Mexico, the Chilean Embassy in Washington, the spokesman Dmitry Peskov, the French Ciudadano leader of the Communist Party in the Russian Federation, the ambassador in Russia, Venezuela, the French Association of Friendship in Argentina, Putin. Today, we knew a movement for non-aligned country declaration of the member state of the group of friends of in the defense of the United Nations Charter, and also we know that there was a phone conversation between the Secretary General of the Communist Party of China, Xi Jinping, and the President of Russia, Putin, and they said that they will support our country and the commitment and the decision to keep on the collaboration with Venezuela and with Cuba. That's what we could say in a general sense that has been happening in this case of support. And there are other things that we cannot explain today openly because the enemy is in a pursuit of all lights that can come to Cuba, all ways that can be open to Cuba. That's why I can say with all sense of responsibility that Cuba is not alone. And in a moment like this, there are many people, government, countries, institutions, enterprises that are eager to work with Cuba, and they have sent out ways, mechanisms, intention of how we can do it. The pursuing, the energy pursuing, financial pursuing, the measures that they are taking just to deepen difficulties in Cuba, we have to do a very creative and intelligent work to avoid all these obstacles. There is a value in a series of there is courage in a group of countries that they want to support us. Thank you, President. Claudia was asking the floor from the agency Xinhua from the Republic Peoples of China. My great President, first in this executive order, there are a reject because of this deepening on the blockade, the energetic blockade. What could countries to support Cuba in face-to-face this? Whenever we see what is happening, the learnings and lectures that we have taken about what happened in Venezuela and the reaction of the U.S. government against Cuba, I thought, what could the world can do? The world cannot be humiliated. The world cannot allow that the strength step on multilateralism. And I think in topics like this, in issues like this, and I think that countries have to understand, people have to understand what is happening right now. They have to understand we are facing all in the world without exception a word, a political and ideological word, a word that have a cultural component, and a word that have a communication component. And it's the concept of a non-conventional war. It is a fourth-generation war that combines all these elements. Why? It is an ideological war. Because they are trying to impose the thinking of the main power in the world. Because why is a cultural war? Because in order to make it to happen, they have to break nexus and the roots, the cultural roots of the countries. They have to do all maneuvers, possible maneuvers, to see their cultures as obsolete in the wide sense, to deny their identity, to be ashamed about their history, to assimilate and impose the pattern of this hegemonic philosophy. It is a mediatic war, because all phases in the aggression to Venezuela were designed And the main thing was the way in which they drive the public international opinion, the way they acted in the media webs. It was a psychological war, and they are doing that against Cuba pressures in order to break the unity, in order to be distrustful, to be uncertain, and these are elements that you can, where you can see the evil that they have. The South Global have to understand this. They have to understand what is the key to the problem, what are the scenarios in this dispute, what are they are offering as future in this brutal future, and then we have to seek for articulation, the unity. We have to find the unity that is not only by speech, but also by action, to the constant denounce, to find all integration in blocks, possible blocks, defending ideas, getting cooperation, commercials that defend multilateralism. And I think there are blocks that right now they are going to have leadership in this sense, like the BRICS one, that are offering different perspectives. Their relations with China, power like China and Russia, relations with the South people are different. The Eurasiatic Union and other blocs, the non-aligned countries, have to play a very important role in this. The 77 group, and is to reach a mobilization anti-hegemonic, and also with a characteristic that have to be present, that is the articulation. It is articulation that is an anti-fascist one. They are acting like Hitlerian groups when they are attacking a country, when they kidnap the president, or when they do criminal actions against both persons in extrajudicial way without any element of legality. I wouldn't like to say in concrete actions that we think that can be done, because it is to commit orders, but there are ways. I am sure that there are ways. What happened is just to travel through these roads and this integration. We in the global South must be courageous and brave. Great President to you and all the ones that are present here. Gonzalez from the Cuban News Channel. President, in different opportunities you have spoke about the opportunity and the disposition to dialogue with United States. I would like to know if you would be willing to speak to USA, or under which principle would you do it, and which were the point of this agenda. I would like to say that in the history of the relation between Cuba and United States after the triumph of the revolution have characterized for an asymmetric that is marked by the imposition of this blockade, economical and financial blockade during many years that had been deepened during the last years. In the current times, there is always have existed in U.S. and in other countries a group of persons, organizations that have favored paths, bridges, spaces of dialogue, of channels of communication. And many times we have reached, and we have reached it. It is allowed for us to speak as equals about issues that we have to share different concepts, but in a common sense, we are in the same geographic area. We are neighbors. There are immigration topics, issues about narco-traffic fight against terrorism, environment issues, things that have to do with the sea, and all the things around the Mexican Gulf, the maritime currents, but also other issues that have to do with scientific collaboration, academic collaboration. There is a big agenda of issues that can be discussed. Always there has been a position, historical position, that was defined and defended by Commander Fidel Castro and was followed by General of the Army Raul, that is cannot be changed in the current time. Cuba is open to a dialogue with the USA, a dialogue about any topic, any issue that they want to dialogue with. Under what conditions? Not under pressures. We cannot talk under pressure, without conditions, in an equal position, in a respectful position to our sovereignty, to our independence, to our self-determination, without going to topics that hurt or we can understand at interference in our internal affairs. And a dialogue like that could be built, relations among neighbors, a civilized one that could give mutual benefits to the people of both nations. Cubans do not hate the North American people. We know the values of their history and their culture. We have had the chance to have spaces of meeting between our peoples in the sport, religious, cultural sectors, in health sector, even dialogues in a political level. We have found that there are many things in which we can work together without prejudices that can give a lot to us. We have seen many things we have been deprived, both people, because this old policy, this criminal policy of blockade and the keeping of that blockade and deepening this blockade in the current time, and they are still doing it, and they are tightening just the knot. And the agenda could be about all these issues that we have spoken about. This is our position. It is a position of continuity, and I think that it is possible. Thank you, President. I want to give the floor to Raciel Guanche, Juventud Rebelde newspaper. Go ahead. Great President. On the way of the recent note about the approval of the plans to the war state, the worst concern in the population, I would like to know what preparation to the defense is our country. I think that there must be some concern in the population, but it is less the worry in the population because they are participating. The worry is about easing others. This hive of people that are against us, the ones that are coward and weak, to the possible aggression of USA and the deepen of the blockade against Cuba. And there is a reality. Cuba is a peaceful country. The defense doctrine and the military doctrine in our country is the conception of the war to all the people. It is nothing to do with, in any way, the aggression to another country. We are not a threat to U.S. For the ones who are constantly speaking about aggressions and have spoken about insulting about a possible aggression to Cuba is the USA government right now. The revolutionaries know what is the value to defend the revolution. And the revolution, as Fidel explained and Raul explained, the revolution that cannot defend itself, it is very difficult to survive to certain circumstances.
y es un deber soberano
And it is a sovereign right,
ante un peligro
a
de agresión,
sovereign duty to be ready to defend our country. When we do analysis of all what is happening, all the happenings after January the 3rd,
para el
the
área
implication
América Latina y el Caribe, las
for
amenazas
Latin America and the Caribbean, the threats.
para Cuba, una de las prioridades que
One of the priorities
fue desplegar un plan de
was
preparación
to
para la
deploy
defensa
a plan to
en la
defend
guerra de todo el pueblo,
for the war of all the
que
people.
comprende
That
la preparación de todo el
comprises
sistema
the
defensivo
preparation of all the defense system in the country, in all stages, provinces,
hasta el Consejo de Defensa Nacional,
municipalities,
de las unidades regulares de la FARC y el MININ,
of regular
de
units,
producción y defensa de las milicias
Brother-
y tropas
the
territoriales
militia
y
units,
también de las estructuras en zonas
and also
de
structures,
defensa
defense zones,
especiales
special
para elevar
occupations,
nuestros niveles de preparación
to raise our levels in preparation.
y está incluso contemplado en nuestra.
What is in our constitution too.
Hemos declarado los
We have
sábados
declared
días nacionales de
Saturday
la defensa.
days, national days of
De manera
defense.
gradual y sistemática, todos nuestros
And in a
sistemas defensivos,
gradual way,
sistema de
all
defensa territorial,
systems
preparando, nosotros
are-
estamos participando en esa preparación.
are ready, and we are participating in this
En
preparation.
estos momentos han existido dos actividades.
In this moment, there are two activities from the National Council
Actualizamos todos los planes
where we actualize all
para
plans
enfrentar una agresión de los órganos de trabajo
to
de los
face
defensas nacionales.
an aggression.
Los actualizamos, les
We
incluimos
actualize them,
precisiones que
and we
tienen
gave
las
precision
experiencias que hemos
with the
hablado.
experience that we have taken from the last international conflicts.
Y por otra parte,
And on the other way,
en otra reunión del Consejo de
in
Defensa
other
Nacional,
meeting of the National Council, we actualize the
para el pase
plan
al estado de guerra, si fuera
to
necesario.
go through the war state if necessary. And it was published. We are not hiding it.
La nota del Consejo de
The
Defensa
note of the
Nacional
Defense Council said exactly,
en cumplimiento de las actividades previstas
accomplishing the activities foreseen for the defense state, and with the objectives to perfection and increase our preparation defense to prepare our personnel.
para analizar
This already, the Defense National Council was in a meeting to approve
el paso al estado de guerra como
the
parte de la
plan
preparación del país.
for the defense of our country to prepare our country
No está
to the strategic conception of the will of all the people. This is not something
preparando
that is saying that we are getting ready if we have to go to the war state in
todo lo demás es una manipulación,
any time. This is the reality. All the rest is manipulation
la cual enseguida fue acogida
that was greeted
el sistema
by all the system
de intoxicación mediática
of
que existe.
the intoxication media that defend
Y nuestro pueblo está
the
participando
the U.S. interest. We have done deployment. We have done drills. I have participated with students in the defense zones, in municipality zone, and we are going to keep on participating in this kind of activities. Well, we are going to go to news agencies. I would like to, in additional information, to say about the media that as this meeting, they are in here, the representative of the foreign media that we have heard about television, that ask for their space, and here we have the news agencies from Prensa Latina, Jorge Legañua, his president, and Rosendo, that is the director of the Cuban Agency of News.
Un saludo,
Agreed.
presidente.
Abrazo.
Jorge Legañoa, as this from the Latin American Agency, Prensa Latina. First of all, I would like to thank you to give us this space to bring you a question that our people is doing and we have received also. I would like to go back for a moment to the executive order from last week. That is interesting. The fact that it is focused this national emergency that was said. I will ask you to ask you some questions one after the other. I would like, are we a country that are patrocinators of international terrorism. Narrative North America speak about protection of terrorists in our country. Are there military forces in Cuba? Are intelligence forces from other nations in Cuban soil? Or are there current conversations with U.S. establish intelligence bases or military bases in Cuba, more than the one that historically exists? You are asking a question that you have asked thousands of times, and we have seen you speaking about these topics, and this is something that is also in the public agenda, in the debate in our country. Well, when you see the history of the Cuban Revolution, we can find how systematically, how deep, how devilish the government of USA have promoted terrorist acts against Cuba. Here we have the more than 600 attempts against our commander-in-chief, all a group of historical events of terrorism. Now I would like to remember some of the provinces: Boca de Samá, in Holguín, lucha against bandits, gangs in the Escambray, in Villa Clara and Cienfuegos, Santi Espíritus, that killed, executed, assassinated farmers and revolutionaries. Among them, a young guy like Manuel Ascunce, who was teaching farmers to have the light of the knowledge. And we have to say that something that is very common to all these events, all these terrorist actions, is that they have been organized, paid, and supported by different governments of the United States. One of the actions more remembered in our country, because due to its connotation and by the deep words of our commander-in-chief, that was the crime against the Barbados plane, where 73 people were assassinated. In a visit that we did in the Caribbean some years ago, we have the chance to pay homage to the fallen ones in that crime, sharing with one of the sons of one of the victims of that attempt against the flight, Justin Cremata, the director of La Colmenita group. I remember that in that place, in that afternoon, in the presence of the Barbadian First Minister, it was very emotional. It was very feeling, in particular for Tino. With his word, he narrated all the grief that he felt together with his family for the loss of his father. I will tell you more. We all know about plans to terrorist acts that are being paid and supported and being prepared in USA to attack Cuba in a moment like this. And at a time, we're going to give that information. We are going to denounce it, that it deserves. How dare he to speak about terrorism to a country that has been a victim from themselves? It is, they have the nerve to do it. It's immorality. It is manipulation. It is a lie. But we have very recent events, how dishonest government of USA has moved the topic of terrorism, making Cuba the guilty one. Let's remember when there was few days before for assuming the president of USA, Cuba was included just in countries that support terrorism. And this is something that this is very harmful for our country in the financial way, and with the possibilities of a group of enterprises to work with Cuba. It is a measure that is coercive measure and a pressure measure against others. And they write on us this classification, and they included Cuba in that list without any proof. Biden kept that position during his term of office, and in the last days of his term of office, he take us out from that list of countries that support terrorism. That he was acknowledging that there was no any proof to include us in that list. And Trump arrives again to the presidency, and in a few days, he included us. He signed us in that list. It is not a fair valuation. It is a manipulation, a political manipulation that deals with the administration of USA. Then Cuba is not a terrorist country. Cuba, it is not a threat for the security of the United States. Cuba has never done or made proposal or has done any aggressive action that endanger the territorial integrity or the security or stability of the government of the United States. We do not protect terrorists. There are not military forces in Cuba from other nations or any other group. There are not military bases from other countries in Cuba. We have military cooperation and military agreements with friend countries and allied countries, but that do not mean that there are military bases in Cuba. Yes, in Cuba there is a military base, an illegal military base, and it is a North America illegal base in the soil of the Guantanamo province against our will. Who are the ones that have military bases all over the world? Who are the ones that is distinguished for supporting the state terrorism in the world? Or that aggression against Venezuela and its president was not a terrorist act? Or the support to the genocide in Gaza against the Palestinian people is not a terrorist act? Or even to fire against boats and disappear people in the Caribbean who were not being linked to narco-traffic in an extrajudicial way, without investigation, without evidences, is not a terrorist act. Then what are you talking about? What side are you in? Which is the principal state in the world that is a danger for the security in the world, for the peace in the world? United States. That's the vision I have about this issue, Alejandro. A great President Raúl Rosendo from the Cuban Agency of News. President, the Cuban context is very complex in the generation of electricity, and due to the access to international fuels, and the executive order that threatened us to avoid us to get to it. Cuba has a long-term strategy to change the energetic matrix in our country, to reach the 100% of renewable sources. Is there an actualization in this matter? Which are the priorities? That's a very interesting question. I have to do with people is concerned about, and people has to know about it. Well, in January, we have dedicated 2 strategies in the different territories and national strategies. And one of the priorities has been the energy program that deals with electricity and other issues too. Energy issues, the use of fuel and this. We have actualized this strategy. Though just what happened is there was a strategy that was from 2 years ago to have a main objective that was the energy transition and renewable sources and the use to be dependent from the food use. The way in which a manner of coercive measure the USA have done amid this situation, we have said that they are guided to the blockade the energy in our country. We have to go to renewable sources. Then, so to answer your question, I have to speak about the result that we have had about applying this theory in last year and to ratify this in this year, just to bring it to the actual moment, to the current moments during these days. Well, the situation was so complex last year that the few results that we have did not allow to see the impact, the real impact that we had last year. That was in the years that we have, we were more stuck. We recovered last year more than 900 megawatts in the distributed energy in our country. Why we haven't seen this impact? Because it have coincide with the heightened of recovery of distributed energy, but we have not enough oil. For instance, we have 4 weeks that we are in zero in distributed energy. We cannot 1,140 megawatts in the hard just time. If we are moving during these days just in the between 1,600 118 deficits megawatts, we have reached even 2,000. If we have had all 1,200 megawatts from distributed energy, so we have minimized this problem in a particular time. In this high electricity time, and we could close these nights with energy, but with a result that we have not taken advantage. But it is there. There it is. Also, we recover generation capacity that has to do with the process that we have powering in repairing and maintaining the main power plants in our country. The impact has not seen because we have had very big lack, but we have kept the lack having functioning only in during that time. The energy plant and the deficit has been done equal like in other times in which we could have a part of the distributed generation, but we didn't have what we had recovered in generation, in the heat generation. And that's why we cannot see the impact. And the third dimension that we work and we have very notable results is in the investment that we did in that bad year in the matter of renewable sources of energy. Last year, we did an investment and we install more than 1,000 megawatts in electrical generation with photovoltaic parks. Around 49 photovoltaic parks were installed in the country. That is why, before 2025, the percent that was given to renewable forces was only the 3%. And with that investment, in just 1 year, we went from 3 to 10% of generation. So we grow in the 7%. And the people can ask themselves, where is that energy? Imagine that during the day we haven't had distributed generation, and we were counted out with the electric plants. Some of them they are in reparation. That's why during the day we haven't had those very high times of deficit, because that 1,000 megawatts are generating a daily percent, the 38% of the energy that the people needs on that moment. And we can have a level of deficit, a controllable deficit during the day. Let's see another way. If we didn't have that 1,000 megawatts, during the day we have had less than 900 megawatts during a day. And in a system like us, with 900 megawatts of generation, more than 2,300 megawatts of deficit during the day, we have a difference during the day and during the night. It could be during all the day. The country would live all the time in blackouts. All the time the system would be unstable, and there was a total blackout. And in 2 or 3 days we would go back to instability. Now, Arlene was asking me a few days ago, and why there is a perception that the blackout has come during the day. And there are occasions in which it has heightened, and there are more problems with the oil, the temperature, the sun is weak, and things are complicated. Well, we are working and we analyze the deficit we have had before January. In January and February, more or less, it is the same. During 2035, we prioritize the energy during the day to the population. But we have stopped the industry, we have stopped agricultural activities, we had stopped the main factories, the main exportation centers, the main production centers of goods for the population, and also making a real analysis of the conditions in the country. We said, well, we need some energy for the economy during the day, knowing that it is going to affect the population, but the population also receives what we produce in the economy, and it is going to be more complicated, and the impact is going to be bigger in the life of Cuban. Then under that concept, the deficit has been equal, but from that investment on, this part of this energy is going to the economy. That's why during the day we are prioritizing just the water just for the plantations, the rice plantations, that is going to have a crop that is going to cover the 40% of the rice that the people eat in a year. Rice with national production, so that we're not going to import it. We are prioritizing another entities that generate exportations. We can give
que sustituyen
energy
exportaciones.
to entities that substitute exportations.
Hemos podido dar la energía que
We could give
necesitamos
energies for the
importantísimo
tobacco, that is a very important just crop in our country.
que se han hecho. Ahora, como ya todas las
Now,
provincias
as all provinces
tenían afectaciones
were
para
affected,
equilibrar eso en el país,
to level this in the country, where is it felt the most?
en la capital,
In Havana, in the capital. Why?
es la que tenía más
Because it is the one that has more capacity
esa energía para poder
to
potenciar
ask for energy
la
to
economía. Y es por
to
eso
power the energy in the other provinces. That is
la
why
apreciación de que hay
there is an appreciation that the deficit is bigger,
priorizar la economía.
because
Estamos equivocados en eso.
we are wrong in that concept. Are we wrong in that
No,
concept?
también es una manera de
Or it is
poder
a way
dedicar una parte de todo ese
to
esfuerzo
give
inversionista.
a part of this investment for the economy just to go up?
Hemos estado
Under that concept, we are
de
working.
los resultados
I am speaking about the result of last year and what it has meant just the
actual.
electricity situation right now.
Ahora, ¿qué hemos planteado?
Now, what have we said?
Ya no solo para la electricidad, lo hemos
Not only
planteado
to
como
electricity, but as a concept
para la situación energética.
to the energy situation in our country. Because this pressure, this situation that we are living,
Y lo hago desde un enfoque
and I'm saying from an idealist focus, it is a rational focus, an optimist one,
pero también realista.
but also realistic. We have to make use of this as an opportunity.
Terminar de comprender
And to understand the country has to be able to be sustainable in the energy with our own sources,
con nuestro crudo nacional
with our national crude, heavy national crude,
de renovables energías.
with the renewable sources of energy. We have sun, we have biomass,
Podemos generar biogás
we can generate biogas,
y ese concepto entonces aplicarlo.
and that concept be applied to generation, to electrical generation. And that is a concept that
Lo que estamos
brings
planteando
on what we are saying
en el tema del plan energético y
in the energetic plan
relación con la electricidad.
related to electricity.
Y por supuesto no se logra de salto.
And of course, it is not going to be
1000 megawatts.
achieved with a jump,
Los 1000 megawatts el año pasado.
but we had 1,000 megawatts, and we are going to
Este año
have a very close
a niveles por encima del 15 o el
level this year. We are going to be close to 15 or 20%
de generación
of
de renovables y el país
electrical generation
económico y social
with these sources. And
a un 25%.
so the proposal for 230 was about the 30%.
Ahora, ¿qué estamos haciendo?
Now, what we are doing, what other actions are we doing in this program
Programa de mantenimiento
to
de
continue
eléctrica, pues nosotros
the programs of
de inmediato,
to keep on with the power plants,
porque además esta base termoenergética
because in this thermoelectric
nacional sin dependencia
base we can generate electricity without importing oil, to keep on with the programs of incrementing the
febrero vamos a cuando
renewable sources of energy. We are going to have at the end 28 megawatts more in photovoltaic parks. In March, at the end of March, we're going to have 59 megawatts. And so every month in the year, we're going to have more megawatts as we did last year.
ya estamos en inversiones que ya no son
We are in investment not only just to increase the renewable energy,
renovable energía con acumulación.
but with accumulating
Abrir la fuente de renovable energía con
the renewable
estamos garantizando estabilidad
sources of energy with accumulating.
y por otra parte
We are going to
capacidades
strengthen the system with energy that is going to be accumulated during the day and to have energy for the night.
y eso nos hace
And that makes us totally independent of the use of fossil fuel. We are installing
temas
5,000 photovoltaic systems, let's see, domestic one, in houses of
en las viviendas
2 kilowatts each in the province, in the places where
y donde llevar
this
ya tendría una inversión
electricity was not given because they were isolated houses.
lugares de difícil acceso.
We have in very difficult access places. When we achieve this,
De un 100%
we are going to have the 100% of electricity in the country.
pero esas viviendas
But those houses that did not have electricity are going to start having it,
porque tiene acumulación
and
también,
because they are going to accumulate it, and they are going to enjoy what they have never enjoyed before. And it's going to be enough for the houses that were left and a group
la energía
of houses that were
era
in a,
a pocas horas,
the energy that they received was for few hours because they have a fuel plants or hydroelectric plants that depends on the water that was in the river or
muy malo.
certain connection that they have. So we are bettering 5,000 houses under this concept. On the other hand,
Estamos ya instalando 5
we are installing 5,000 photovoltaic models
en centros vitales,
in vital centers to give service to the population.
haciendo en medio de esta circunstancia
We are doing all this amid this circumstance, amid this moment.
y le aporta a esa transición.
And,
Por ejemplo, 161 hogares
and 161
beneficiados con estos
care houses are going to be benefit with this plan.
ya se le han ubicado módulos de este tipo
We have had models of this kind of
a niños que tienen enfermedades
kids that have diseases that they need to have energy in their houses all day long. We gave it last year to 161 year, and we are going to give 121 more during this year.
156
150. I spoke about
156 hogares de ancianos, 305 casas de
136
500
houses for elderly people, 107,
por lo menos el cuerpo
56 polyclinics. Just in the emergency rooms, they're going to have this system. 336 banks. One of the main problems that the population have is when there is a blackout, they can have bank operations. So it's going to be solved with this. 349 commercial offices
las personas tienen que hacer.
where people have to go to do some tramits.
Aquí hemos hablado de
Here was spoken about old man houses, polyclinic. It is created for the 169 municipalities in our country.
y no nos detenemos.
And we're not going to stop. We're going to keep on
Hay
going.
10,000 sistemas
There are 10,000 photovoltaic systems. 5,000 plus 5,000, there are 10,000. 10,000 houses, institutions that are not going to be needed to be connected to the national system.
están entregando con prioridad a personal
There is a priority
educacional
for people from the educational system
sistema de salud.
and the health system, doctors, teachers, professors, workers from the health systems,
De la educación,
people
de la educación
from
superior,
education and the superior education.
que son dos sectores que
There are
aportan
two sectors that give a lot to the society.
con mucha,
People that work with
muy compleja con
very complex situation,
concreta
with payment facilities
a largo plazo. Son 10,000,
to a long-term payment. There are 10,000 people more,
multiplica por 3 o 4
10,000
de familias que mejoran con esto.
houses more.
Hemos planteado incentivos
We are going to incentivize
comprando sistemas
people that buying system. They want to support the national system, or they want to give it to a community or to a neighborhood
de vivienda.
or to a group of
Hemos
houses.
dado incentivos también para que
We have given
cancelaria en materia de precio, en materia de formas de pago,
in the matter of
para su casa lo puede
for a house, it could be
más viable posible, más,
bought from the better way.
más expedita. También este año están previstos
Also this year,
de capacidad
we are going to recover aeolic capacity in some parks that we have in the country, but they work with certain problems, technical problems, and there are new investments in aeolic energy, mainly en la herradura
en las.
y las tunas.
O sea, estas son todo un
Then all this is a group of action that are going to be done in this program
que está actualizado y
that is
haciendo el camino
that is actualized and
al cual queremos llegar.
and is telling us the way we want to
Y aquí,
walk through.
como expliqué ahorita,
And and I say before, there is another group of things
están haciendo
that we are doing to help that we are going to receive,
de proyectos que se están gestionando
projects that we are doing, and in the measure that we have the answer, they are going to widen
para el país. El año
this
pasado adquirió
situation. Last year,
capacidad
our country had a capacity
en las fuerzas que construyen,
in
operan e instalan
the teaching of the
la tecnología.
people that are operating or
Y cuando
doing these parks.
alrededor de 3 meses para hacerlo,
So before there were 3 months to finish a park, and now we are doing it in 45 days. So there is the capacity is better now to be done in Cuba, and even just to give help to other countries that need this cooperation.
y se ha ido incorporando
And
nuevas tecnologías,
we have a group in new technologies.
haciendo desarrollo,
We are going to do all the developments
liderados
in a group with a group of scientists,
doctora Lidice,
leadership,
ha estado
led by leadership, who has been watchful in the way that these
contado
actions should be done. So this
de ciencia,
this
innovación,
this has had science and innovation. This was a topic that was taken to the Council of Innovation last year, and it is a reality that is having this impact that I'm explaining to you. If there is something missing, Escarito had asked you a paper asking about this topic, but in another dimension. Oscar Figueredo from Cuba Debate. My great President, you were referring to the big investment that we have done in energy, and there is an element that is very important. It was ratified, the necessity to keep on exploiting the internal sources that we have. They do not believe. So the Cuban oil is, the crude oil in Cuba is too heavy. Our power plants are using. Can we enhance this protection of this product? Well,
pregunta me permite,
this question allows me to answer.
así que complementar
Then I just to complement the energy
básicamente lo que proponemos para
energy thing that we are doing to face this situation.
que tenemos todo esto que
I will say that we have this that could be done, but it is not going to be done in 2 days.
a la respuesta. Yo lo que sé
Before the yes answer,
tenemos una situación
I would like to say
desde el punto de vista de combustible complejo.
that the situation, the energy situation, according to fuel oil, is complex.
Por lo tanto, desde esa fecha aquí no se recibe combustible.
From December, we haven't received oil.
Por lo tanto, tenemos problemas.
That is why we have problems in
No solo ya la generación eléctrica,
in oil, not only to guarantee the energy, electric energy,
tienen que ver también directamente con
uh, but also
y se reunió el Consejo de Ministros.
things that have to do with the population. That is why the Council of Ministers had a meeting today
Las directivas de
to make some
desabastecimiento.
measures to face this
Y hemos tomado como
lack of oil that we have today. And we have taken
las directivas del comandante
the orders of our commander-in-chief Fidel Castro, the measures that he said during the special period. And we are retaking these directions. I'm going to give today a general view
que tú me haces
from the question that you are asking me for the next days. From the discussion that we had yesterday, the Minister Council, a group of deputy ministers that are going to inform to the population in details the content of this measure. And I think that in a week, you are going to have all the information on this situation, how are we going to work.
un segundo concepto que yo
A second question that I want to clear up. Though there is an energetic blockade, we are not going to,
recibir combustible en nuestro país. Eso es un derecho que tenemos.
we have the right to receive oil in our country. This is a right of us. And we will do all work for the country to have, again, oil coming in,
Que con esto
so that,
quiero explicar
with also what I want to explain is that
la garantía
to have the guarantee
de que el partido,
that
el gobierno,
the Communist Party, the government,
instituciones que tienen que ver
the institutions that have to do with the energy decisions are working
que se afecte menos a nuestro
on the functioning to decrease the effect,
en condiciones
the problems in the population in this difficult condition, because there is an energy blockade against Cuba from USA, and there there is a lot of fear.
impacto psicológico
There is a psychological impact
armadores, en navieras,
in ship
en países que nos
countries that can give oil to us,
pero nosotros no renunciamos a esos
but we are not renouncing to this right. This is a sovereign right of our country, and I think that it's condemnable that a power country
con la dimensión que tiene
with the dimension USA they have as a power country
asuma
do
política tan agresiva y tan
such an aggressive and criminal policy against this small country. Because what means to blockade? Not to allow the drop of oil.
es afectar la transportación,
That is to affect transportation of food,
el transporte público,
the public transportation,
el funcionamiento de los
the
hospitales,
functioning of hospitals,
de las instituciones de todo tipo,
of
la
all
escuela,
kind of institutions, schools,
la producción de la economía.
the economy, tourism.
¿Cómo mantenemos las clases?
How are we going to keep just kids having classes without
¿Cómo funcionan nuestros sistemas
oil? How the vital systems are going to work? How do we distribute the food? How are we going to prepare the land?
¿Cómo recogemos los productos?
How are we going to make the
¿Cómo
crops?
nos trasladamos?
How are we going to travel?
Por lo tanto, vamos a medidas
That's why we're going to measures
que, aunque no van a ser
that,
permanentes,
though they are not going to be forever,
en cada
but
momento
they have
queden
to
disponibles
do with every moment with the disposition as
medidas que van a demandar
fuel that we have. They are going to demand effort.
graves sacrificios. Bueno,
Another time, people are going to ask another sacrifice. If do not sacrifice, are we going to surrender?
y nosotros hemos compartido
And we have shared that surrender is not our option. There is a lot to defend.
hay muchos cubanos y cubanas dignas
There are many dignified Cubans that
y los más
want to give their life for the country. And the recent ones are the 32, the ones that fell in Venezuela. And the Cuban people were indignant. And this one
ya no se cierra.
is still open. It is not closed.
¿Y por qué actuaron así?
And why did they act like
Tenían una
that?
convicción, sabían lo que
Because
estaban defendiendo.
they have a conviction. They know what were they defending. Not only the president,
Una nación,
not only a brother country.
era la dignidad,
It was
era la soberanía,
dignity,
era Cuba,
sovereignty. It was Cuba. It was the revolution.
América Latina,
It was Latin America and the Caribbean.
es el sur global.
It was the global south.
Y lo hicieron como único se podía hacer.
And they did
En la vida,
on the only way
como ese.
they could do it, in a consequent way, with the courage, the bravery.
Otra manera de describir.
There was no other way to describe it. And we will see tomorrow,
Vamos a contar todas
when we can tell the history, the real apport of these 32 Cubans, and what means this lecture for people who are threatening
una nación para evitar
our country. What right have a country to stop allowing oil to another country? They are not just hurting the Cuban people, they are hurting other people of other countries. How many enterprises have their harming? It's not a violation of international law,
la Carta de las Naciones
of all the United Nations Charter. It's not against the free trade of that is defended by imperialism and capitalism. Who do they think they are
ponernos eso.
to impose that on us?
Pero alguien puede celebrar
But someone can celebrate in the world this
un país.
to be done to any country.
Hay algún asomo de humanismo,
Is there
de decencia,
any way of humanism,
civilidad,
decent,
de
sensibility
decoro con alguien que actúa así?
for someone who act like this?
Esto es la asfixia, es asfixiarnos
This is to suffocate us.
completamente. Y para que no nos asfixien, entonces,
And not to be suffocated, there is a strategy, there is a program that we have actualized during this day, and there are new measures. that today we were seeing in the Ministry Council. Some were a very restrictive one, but we have to accommodate consumption. We have to promote saving. There are things that we have to stop or postpone to keep on functioning in the main things and to keep on facing this situation. And I know that when I speak about saving, people say, what more are we going to save? There is not much to save. Even the ones who have more power during the day, because there are secrets that we have to protect, must be more responsible using that energy that is a lack for others. Then I think that even talking, discussing, explaining these things, we can promote consciousness. And I could give our a portion to give a support to these things that we need to face this situation. Then I think that a concept, it is fundamental one. We have to learn to live with our own sources. Then first, there are different actions. We are amid this situation with the lack of resources. We are heightening our storage capacities. We lose storage capacities when the problem with the super tankers. We are not easy to the fact. We are not renouncing. We need to have more oil in the country, so to have more capacity in storage, to increase the production of the national crude. We prefer to say equivalent oil. It is to heighten the production of the crude oil and the gas that accompany it. And in last months, we have had more gas, so we have more generation with the gas. But a part of that gas is the one that is given to many houses in the capital for cooking. And that's increasement of this gas. We are going this year to hide the consumptions of this gas in Havana that is within this program. And to increase this oil, we're going to have more crude for the power plants in our country so that they can generate consuming that crude. Then we are buying an engine that help us to generate electricity that they can work with this Cuban crude and all projects that we are developing. And we are not going to stop with increasing this crude and gas. We give a task to our scientists, a group of investigators that has been done by the Institute of Investigation of the to refine the Cuban crude and can use it like the other. And so not just for the power plants and to have derived from that crude to have gasoline, to have diesel from that refination. At the end of the year, we make a small test refining this national crude. And there are perspective ways. I'm speaking about strategies and things that we can do. I repeat, not all these are going to solve problems, but it's going to give lights. Are different things that we are doing, and it's going to give sovereignty to us. It is something that we have to make use. We have to make use of the renewable. We can make dry places for food like
la biomasa,
eolic energy, biomass, biogas.
el biogás transformar
Biogas
residuales en energía
transform residuals into energy.
y con plantas de biogás
And with biogas plants,
cocinar.
you can cook.
Con plantas de biogás puedes tener lámparas que
You
funcionan
can
con
have
gas
lamp
y te dan
that
iluminación.
function with gas and can illuminate. But there are engines
Y con ese
that work with biogas,
generador eléctrico
and
tienes un gasogenerador.
with that engine you can have a gas generator, and you are generating electricity. And those things that we are dealing with
que sean sostenibles.
to be sustainable ones, and not to forget
Por
this
eso yo digo, vamos a
hard
dar
time.
oportunidad
And we are going to see them like opportunities to develop ourselves, to have sustainable development, to be in an energy way sovereign, to be independent. And there are some measures that we have to be done in the way that we are
y las disponibilidades
going up to
de combustible. Pero yo también les puedo asegurar
increase the disponibilities of
el apoyo que hemos recibido
oil. I would like to speak also about the support that we are having during this day. There are many people in the world and entities that reject the pressures, that reject the blackmailing,
están en contra del
and,
marco económico contra Cuba.
and reject the blockade against Cuba. And they are even,
Y yo creo que también
they want to take the risk to commerce with Cuba.
la comunidad
The world and the international community,
tiene que definir
they have to be defined.
si va a permitir que
If they are going to allow a crime like this to be done
otra nación
to
del mundo
Cuba that could be done to any other country in the world is the future of the humanity. Or
definir
really, we are going to define to make a struggle
por la solidaridad,
for the solidarity, cooperation,
por la soberanía,
sovereignty,
lateralismo
for the multilateralism and the respect to the rights of all peoples in the world. That is something that people have to speak about, and the
internacional.
international community has to do. President Dilber Reyes,
del periódico Gramma también,
subdirector, vice director of Gramma newspaper,
comunicación de la presidencia que nos acompaña,
and we have all the team of the presidents.
acompañan cotidianamente.
Eso me preguntan todos los días.
That is what I am asked every day.
Saludos, presidente Dilber Reyes.
Dilber Reyes from Gramma newspaper.
Condiciones de bloqueo
In blockade conditions, extremely conditions,
y exagerada por un lado,
that is not an exaggerated word. It is an objective word that implies, firstly,
comer, tomar agua,
to stop basic services, eating, health, education. How do you consider that life in the country has to move, attending to these surviving
hasta qué punto eso
priorities?
es movilizar todo ese potencial local que usted
How
está
to mobilize all this potential that you have
ahí en la comunidad.
said so many times to produce food
Vamos a tener invitaciones
in the communities we're going to
locales,
do it,
experiencias que han demostrado
to make local experiences
en condiciones de carencia demostraron
in these scarcity
segundo bueno
conditions. We have
los plenos provinciales
demonstrated it, and in the second plenary of the Communist Party, all this concept has been repeated once and once again. But there is a perception
se queda en la reunión,
that this urgency sense is kept in the meeting,
en la vida de la gente.
and it has to be translated to the life of people. How do you think it must be changed? The way of conducting the party. All this that must be urgent to be done in a fast way. You have been very, very
La manera en que
edgy in the way that you characterize the situation.
para contestar las dos preguntas
To answer the two questions, I think they have to support in the plenary that we have just
a nivel
finished in provinces, and they are going to
municipal y no porque estemos hablando
to have a continuity in municipalities.
de espacios
There have been debate spaces, building spaces, consensus spaces. That it is the power that we have in this consensus, these things that we have reiterated,
de verdad en resultados
to turn them into results and to look for variables, new variables,
más con más
a variable
peso
with
en la ecuación
more importance in the Cuban
que es la urgencia del momento.
life equation. That is what we have to do during these times. And we cannot lose times. And there are things that we have to be done.
Yo creo que eso también ha alentado el
And I think that it is encouraging the thinking,
la promoción, la comprensión
the promotion, and the understanding
grupo de
of a group of ideas. And the provincial plenaries
nos dieron
gave
una
us
primera confirmación de eso. Lo
a confirmation of this. What was presenting as strategy
en sus planes
for this year in their plans,
es muy superior
provinces, it is
a todo lo que había
higher to the one
la concepción de
that we have had in our conception. So there is a will not only to resist, but also to create and to overcome. And there are many things that are beginning to be generalized. It has to do also that we have been discussing very complex things in a very, very bad situation.
que ahora sí se van a salir y otra vez
Then
porque necesitaban madurar,
they need to be mature.
que tenían que ver
People have to believe in that. People have to see spaces, scenarios where they can materialize successfully all these ideas.
porque hay personas
And now because there are people sometimes, and I say that
de sabiduría
not
que dan una noción
in a wise way, that give
que a veces
a notion where they
de esa compleja
take only one variable of this complex equation of the life of Cuban people.
y puede ser incluso una idea brillante y todo
And it could be a very brilliant idea. And we take into account all ideas, but all variables
forman parte de
are related. They are in the same equation, a very complex one,
una ecuación muy compleja.
a very complex
Y
equation.
entonces ahí es donde uno ve que
And then that is where you see that there are things that are delayed
en lograrse.
to be
Y partimos entonces
to
del
be
aporte
achieved, and then we see the apportations of this
que ahora
plenary.
las venas en la discusión sobre los temas
It,
fundamentales, sobre
we discuss very important
una
topics,
visión hacia la
issues,
emergencia, con una visión,
with a vision to emergencies,
damos respuesta
with a vision of how we answer to the population in the less time possible,
dio luces, que
but also gave lights
yo diría que
and shared concepts,
conceptos para la labor ideológica,
concept for the ideological work, for the
prioridades,
economical battle, priorities, and above all,
construcción de entre todas las cosas
a construction of all things that we have in a proposal in our government project
discutiendo y chequeando.
to discuss
Programa de gobierno,
in this
vamos a una consulta
project
popular,
that
ahora va a tener
we
una
ask in a
producida
popular consultation,
y ampliada
and it's going to be enhanced
popular
from that people's consultation of all the things which are the main transformation that we should do
en el modelo económico
in our social
más rápidamente. Entonces,
model.
voy a hablar para
I'm going to speak about that to answer the two questions
que me hace.
that you were asking me.
Pero en una
First,
circunstancia como esta,
in circumstances like this,
por un lado nos quieren
where in one side they want to suffocate us, and on the other side there is a possibility of a military attack, what have we defined as priority? First, we have to heighten the functioning of the Communist Party, the government, the state, the institutions,
de las instituciones armadas,
the
de las
army
organizaciones
institutions,
armadas, de las organizaciones
the mass organizations, all the system
del país,
in the country
para defendernos de la agresión.
to defend from the aggression and be
Ya lo que les comenté,
ready
hacían la pregunta sobre la defensa
to defend
del plan para elevar la disposición
our country, to elevate the disposition
para la defensa en interés de la guerra de todo el pueblo por parte de toda nuestra población.
in the world of all the people on the side of our population.
¿Cómo
A political mobilization,
manifestamos, cómo contentamos,
how we
debatimos,
speak,
discutimos?
debate, share, propose.
Yo creo que un punto
I think that is a very important issue in this mobilization plan.
y el homenaje
I
que hicimos
was the homage that we did
a los compañeros caídos en Venezuela.
to our comrades that fell in Venezuela.
Salió
The first
3 de enero a
people
manifestarse
to go
repudiando
out
al pueblo.
to repudiate
Recuerden que fue en la madrugada.
the attack to Venezuela was the Cuban people. I remember it was
Estábamos convocando al pueblo
at,
para la
at 3 a.m.
y la tribuna
And at 8 a.m. we were at the tribuna.
el acto de denuncia porque no había dado tiempo a montar todavía.
We have to wait because we didn't have time to prepare the act, and people were over there. And it happened like that in all provinces. So, expressions of our people in all provinces.
Y el acto cuando ya llegaron los restos,
And the act when all rest arrived, the march of the combatant people, the way that people participated,
y la manera en que el pueblo acudió en
and the way that people go to all places in the country
cimero de esa
was the highest point of this political mobilization.
en lo que tiene que ver con Cuba y lo que tiene que ver
What
con la
has to do with Cuba and what has to do with the defense
Venezuela,
of Venezuela, what has to do with the defense
de Maduro y
of Maduro
su esposa,
and his wife,
lo que tenemos
what has to do for integration, what we have to denounce
que comete.
the wrongdoings that the empire do against the world.
Bueno, está también
Well, we have always, as an economic answer, in the shortest time, we implemented
elemento fundamental
the main elements, the main transformation that are within the government program
resolver los problemas estructurales
to solve the structural problems in the economy and the economy. The energy plan, the one that we have spoken about,
del combustible,
of the fuel,
está la articulación
we have the
nacional que
international articulation that we are promoting, that the left-wing forces, we have to be articulated to denounce, to find answer, to fight
esta ofensiva
all
imperial
this imperialist offensive.
y esta y es una de las cosas en las que a veces tenemos
And this is one of the things that we
más insatisfacción, la
we have no satisfaction, the way that we have to develop
desarrollar la comunicación
the communication, political communication, the social communication, the institutional communication. They have to answer to a wartime communication. It is a crisis communication,
ofensiva mediática imperial
a communication that face this
los espacios como
of imperial offensive that is intoxicating all spaces in the world, that is trying to assassinate reputation of people, leaders, of people, persons,
que está tratando de tirar una
that are
cortina de humo
trying to bring
que está pasando
a smoke curtain around what is happening,
de justificar
that is trying to justify everything that they are doing.
un secuestro.
It's not, they do not speak about
Se habla de una
the kidnapped of a president. They say a capture. Everything is ambiguous
o extracción que
or
además
extraction.
repudiable, ¿verdad?
It is,
De
it,
hecho, extraer a un presidente de un país para llevártelo para otro.
it is a gross
Llena de mentiras, de calumnias, de
topic, full of lies, full of hatred,
que promueve fracturas,
that promote breakage, promote
no es
confusions.
decente.
That is not decent. It is vulgar. It is gross.
Entonces,
Then,
asociado a esas prioridades,
associated to these priorities and all this group of concepts for the people, for the party's work,
del partido. Bueno, un primer concepto
well, the first concept that is basic one, though we repeat it, is unity.
que nos da la fuerza.
It is the one that gives us strength.
Yo hice algunas
And in the plenary, I said
reflexiones sobre la unidad,
some
los llamados
spoke about concepts of unity
momentos de la revolución en
and the cause that Fidel did and Raúl did also. There are two essential elements
de la unidad.
of unity.
Vamos a discutir fuerte,
We are going to discuss strongly and we are going to march together
discutir para perfeccionar,
to discuss to perfection, to criticize,
debatir,
to debate, to give.
eso no divide,
That do not divide.
eso une. Sobre
That
todo si después
is
a partir de esas
unity.
reflexiones, esos aportes de discusión,
If this,
marchamos juntos.
after this given, we march together.
Cuando hay desidia, cuando alguien se
When there is division, when someone keeps silent about what he's thinking,
no es honesto,
when someone is not honest, that creates breakage in unity. And another element is to participate. When all participate, when all share, when all fight,
todos logramos resultados resultados,
when all get good results,
hay más identidad,
there are more identity,
hay más compromiso,
there is more
hay más
commitment,
autoestima
there is more self-time,
y hay más fuerza
and there is more strength
en lo que hacemos.
in all things that we do.
Entonces está la unidad, está
Then
la vinculación.
there is the unity and the link to the population.
Yo siempre le digo a los compañeros,
We have to work.
el mejor tiempo que uno
The best time that you do is when you are on the scenery where people are producing with the staffs, when you are sharing the ideological issues, because being more tame at the grassroots is so after when you go to the meeting, you go with the vision and the knowledge about what is happening down there, the problems, the aspirations,
de los criterios de la gente.
the criteria of the people.
Y entonces cuando vas a aportar
And then when you go to give a decision, then the decision is going to be a realistic one. It's going to be joined to the necessities. It's going to meet the necessity and aspiration. We have to cultivate it.
cuando hablamos de vincular,
When we spoke about linking, sometimes people think that linking is to visit. The theme is to transform, to act,
no es para marcar tarjeta, como
not to mark a card. I went to all municipalities. And in the country. And what happened when you went? What did you see?
logré ayudar a potenciar, que expliqué,
Where do you help? What do you explain? What do you clear up? Or what idea did I took
poderla multiplicar. Eso es otro
to multiply it?
que se trabajó en el océano
That was something that was called in the 11th plenary for to be taken to provinces and municipalities as strategies. Democracy in the party.
y Raúl varias veces ha hablado de eso.
Raúl spoke many times about that.
Si por razones históricas
If for a historical reason we are the unique Communist Party that is acknowledged constitutionally,
de los militantes como
we are not only the party of the Communist Party, we are the party of the Cuban nation.
entonces yo digo el momento más natural
Then the most natural moment of the work in the Communist Party, that is the meeting in the grassroots meeting,
hay que convocar a jóvenes
we have to call young people, we have to call just workers that are not in the party just to help us in the solution of the problems.
en la historia de la revolución
In the history of the revolution, we know to do that very well, and we know how to defend it very well for the big things. It is very complicated issue that was
por los
to approve the family code for the prejudices.
llevamos a dos ejercicios democráticos.
We took it to democratic exercises
Así lo hicimos con la
with the people.
así lo hicimos
We did that with the Constitution.
consulta popular,
We did in the popular consultation for the program of the government in the economy. But in the daily things, we do not do that.
y no lo logramos,
And we do not get that.
no lo logramos. La participación y el control popular.
The participation and popular control.
Participación. Todo
Every-
lo que pongamos a hacer tenemos que
Everything has to be done with the popular participation. We have to support it with the work and the participation of the people, and mainly the young people.
de esa participación
And as a part of this popular participation, it is to the popular control
de la población
Oh,
y de todas las cosas.
in all things that we do.
Y eso pasa también por el
And that crosses also.
yo siempre he defendido tres pilares para el trabajo del partido,
I have always defended three
que son la comunicación
pillars.
política,
That is the
institucional
communication, political communication, social, the digital transformation, and the application of artificial intelligence in all these processes,
y la innovación.
and the science and innovation,
Un enfoque de la ciencia
to find from that focus solutions to the main problems that we have. Problems are very complex. First, we cannot solve them with just one alternative. We have to have different ways.
y la ciencia nos brinda
And science give us solution when we apply them and give results that are in innovation.
y esa es otra de las cosas,
And this is another thing that we have to power
el enfrentamiento a la corrupción,
to face corruption that is very important to support
todos los procesos.
to all processes.
Y entonces entonces, contestando
And
la
then
segunda pregunta,
answering the second question.
¿en qué hay que trabajar más rápido?
What are the
Y ya tomar
jobs?
decisiones
What job are
esenciales
going to do the fastest one and have fastest decisions
para
to
lograr resultados con la urgencia
success in the
en
results
estos momentos?
right now?
Y a eso es lo que yo le llamo las transformaciones.
That's what I call necessary transformation in these
Y está
times.
bastante consensuado.
And
Ahora
it
cuando
is
vimos el debate
in a very
del programa de gobierno,
joint consensus in the program of government. It coincides
que tuvieron más
with the
por parte de la población en primer lugar.
things that people talk about.
Hay que
First,
ir a un perfeccionamiento,
we
una
have
actualización
to
del sistema
perfection
económico,
actualize the
donde haya una adecuada
economy direction.
centralización y
There is a
descentralización
link between centralization and decentralization and a relation
de la planificación
from planification
y lo que hay que abordar con
and we have
señales del mercado.
with the signal of the market.
Y es un principio de defensa de
That
la
is
Constitución socialista
a
en nuestra
defense of the socialism in our constitution.
y eso pasa también
And that happens also
con estas cosas ahí
that there are some
tomadas que van a ir
of these decisions that are going
sistemáticamente y gradualmente
to have evolution.
un nuevo sistema de asignación de
There
divisas
is a new system of currency for the economical activity. A second transformation necessary is to restructure all the state apparatus, the institutional.
población envejecida con
That we are a small country with very old population. We have having had so
que duplican funciones
growing in the population an amount of people
ámbito de lo que no es productivo
that are not producing, that we have to restructure and to take some of
y
this
ser más eficientes en los procesos de dirección, en los procesos
to be more efficient in the process of the state,
de planificación.
in the process of planification.
Tiene un avance.
That all is advancing in the work. It is a necessary change. We have to go to be
Hemos trabajado también en esto.
selfish in the
Estuvimos tocando el tema y hay bastante ya definición.
there are many definitions about this topic. With autonomy,
Si yo te doy, primero se le han dado un grupo de facultades a las
First,
empresas que no todas las empresas aprovechan
there are some faculties that are given to all enterprises and they are not making use of it.
autonomía empresarial
When I give you all the autonomy, empresarial autonomy, you don't have to wait.
o de una planificación
That is something I'm going to give you from the main cash.
y los combustibles.
It is
País, la centralización,
the centralization in the country.
la planificación es
The planification is for the priorities. The others,
que tiene autonomía
enterprises that have autonomy, they have to
ingresos en divisas para comprar
to trade, to export, to buy the oil that they need, to buy the raw material that they need.
le estamos aprobando
And in fact, we are approving schemes
a entidades estatales y no estatales
to some state entities and non-state entities, private entities, to create mechanism in this sense, only with a concept
sea para
that
reducirse ampliadamente
what is done is to reproduce themselves and to try and help the necessity of the country and to help to development of their productions and services.
para esa autonomía
Then this autonomy
tiene que estar acompañada
must to be linked to a redimension, a restoration,
y sobre todo
and above all,
del municipio.
in the municipality sphere. Because the other transformation, important transformation that we have to deal with is
Autonomía de los municipios.
the autonomy of the
La
municipalities.
autonomía no rompe con la
That
unidad
it doesn't
en la
break
construcción socialista.
with the unity in the construction of socialism or it is a lack of discipline.
La autonomía lo que garantiza
The autonomy, what guarantee is the municipality is closer and have faculties to solve the problem that is close to their people that live in it.
yo digo, nosotros no podemos aspirar a
I said we cannot think that the country
y que a partir de
be developed and from that development just to develop the provinces and municipalities. We have to success in the development of the municipalities development. After that, the province, and after that, the country's development.
y por qué le hablaba de
And why I was speaking about autonomy of the state enterprises,
para que los municipios puedan
because the municipalities
sus capacidades en
can produce for themselves
desarrollar sus
to develop their strategy, to develop their territory. They have to have local productive systems, strong ones. If you ask to the municipality, how many entities do you have? The municipality, they can say 20, 30, 40. And they say, tell me, which one are subordinated to the government? Generally, one agro that was inaugurated last year, an enterprise from the commerce. Then, how the municipality is going to develop with this amount? And all the other cons are subordinated to national productions, all giving their incomes to the national and provincial structures. When the processes are developed in the municipality, I don't say that all enterprises has to be municipality. Are enterprises that, due to its characteristic, and there are huge ones, though they are in the municipality, they must be from the under the national subordination, but not the majority. So the municipality have to be, they have to have autonomy. They have to support the production, local production, what they are going to eat, what it is produced in the place. Now more, because we have less fuel. We cannot move food from one province to another. We have to change the concept of the basic bag. Most of our basic bag it comes from the outside. We are importing that, and that's what is distributed to all people. We try to guarantee 7 pounds of rice in the month to subsidized prices. If there is someone that earns more than 25,000 pesos, or another that earns, their wages is over 60,000, or another that has vulnerability, everybody takes the same. There is municipalities that produce rice and we bring rice from. That is not equity. Equity is when we give to the ones that have more, a little one, and the one that have more problems, we give them more. This is the principle of socialism. The apportation is given, but not giving anyone behind. But if you want a people, and you give to all the same, so there is a bridge. Then that's where we have to do it. The autonomy of the state enterprise in the municipality. What we think is that the municipality export and import what they produce. And that is going to untie the productive forces. Because see, under that concept of the bag, if we are going to produce if we're going to give what we produce, is to give more. It's people trying to produce. If there is a group of entity, as the bag is based on the importation, who are participating in solving the problem of the food? Few people. When we do it in that way, that few are not going to stop doing it, but we are going to add more people. We're going to add more in the production dynamic, in the social dynamic of the territories. And I'm convinced that in the measure that we are doing it, in a realistic way, we are not going to think that all places are going to advise in the same way. It is not going to be okay since the beginning, but we are creating culture and we're going to show results, and we are going to advance, and we are going to stimulate and compensate the distribution, the differences that we still could have. And that would lead us to change the mentality, the importation mentality. There is another element that we are doing to renegotiate the debt that we have, to make use of the economic association between the state and the private enterprise. Both the state and private state are within the local development.
de lo que queremos lograr.
That's what we want
De igual manera,
to reach, and the same way to make use of flexibility of the foreign investors that we are doing in the Havana Fair.
cómo promovemos y creamos
And under this concept is to stimulate, to create facilities in the participation of the Cubans that live in foreign countries to participate in the development, social and economic development in Africa and our country. That is another element that we have to work in. These are the reflection that we have get, because we have seen people that have done it and they have reached it. There are enterprises that have not. They didn't know how to produce rice, and they began to export charcoal, and they began to export it, and they have to bought, and they bought the fuel and the things that they need, and they are imported, and they are having success in it, and they are even the rice is cheaper. We have to produce in our country everything we can produce, and if we are going to import something, it is supplies to power the national production. But there are different things that we can produce in the country. These are the priorities for the transformation, the energy transformation. Never to forget that we have to work to the vulnerable people, to assist vulnerable people. And all decisions, we have to see who we are the ones that are disadvantaged. And we have to perfection the taxes policy, the bank policy, and modernize it to support all what we intend to do in the economic point of view. And I insist in our priorities, in the transformations, in the issues of science and innovation, artificial intelligence, and also to develop the concept of knowledge economy, the economy that is generated from the effort of the science and the knowledge, and the country have a lot of power in it. I think that it speaks about priorities in the Communist Party and how can we promote the economy and other things. And we have sure that we can go forward in this way. President, I don't want to give the floor to the youngest journalist of this group, because he didn't have the idea that he can ask two questions in one, and as the youngest guy in the staff, he can ask about the future. It is a young that we realized in a visit in the staff of his media web. President, well, in a context like the one that we are right now, since the conference started, I would like to know your point of view about the attitude of the people and the young people during this complex moment. I think that whenever we speak about the people and the young people, as the popular saying says, we have to take off our hat. The heroism of these people is astonishing. Though we are in difficult times, living difficult, very difficult time, when you see the strength, the creativity, the resilience of the Cuban people, it is a resilience that holds on. It's a creative one. It is resist, but I go forward. I resist, but I go bigger. And I think I remember what we get during the COVID with the science. It is not to go through the COVID, but overcome with our own means. That was the impact of our vaccine. Then you cannot have any question or any other kind of feeling to the attitudes to our people or our youth. Some people speak trying to deny this.
Hacia los jóvenes uno tiene una visión
To the young people, we have a vision that has to do with the years when we were university student, a leader in the university. We have to treat them as the very important person that they are. When we speak about unity, we cannot speak about it without the young people. When we speak about continuity, we cannot speak about it without the young people. That is why, in that concept of popular participation, I always say everything has to have a way out for the popular participation. And how do we call and make young people to participate? And there are daily examples of the answer that young people give.
la indignación por lo de Venezuela,
The outrageous for the Venezuelan
la
attack,
participación de los jóvenes
the participation in the homage
en la marcha del pueblo congolés.
to our fallen ones in the march of the people, these young people that leave the complex situation, the scarcity of this time, their love, their project of life is not the ones that they would like, but there are hopes that they have in here that are better than any other place. This generation that we have that is without prejudice, that sometimes they say they do not know too much, they do not speak too much, and we are astonished by the knowledge that they have, how deep they have, they can give a criteria. The intelligence,
Pero también cuando les llamas para cosas duras.
but also when you call them for very hard things, they do it.
Yo recuerdo siempre
I remember I always have explained it a lot of time when we were in the work to face the COVID.
no nos habíamos dado
We didn't have realized that we have to call the young people, and when we were going to do it, they were already there.
ellos por sí mismos se
They by themselves mobilized themselves because they understood that they could give to the country. Who better than them?
y lo hicieron jóvenes
And
de todos los sectores.
young people from all sectors did it.
Que me he encontrado
And whenever
encuentro con los jóvenes,
I have a meeting with young people, I have learned,
me he nutrido de experiencias
and I have learned
y escuchado
experiences, and listening to the young people, you can see things from another point of view, more actualized, more contemporaneous way,
más audaces,
with more audacy, and that audacy that our
tranquilidad,
young people give,
compromiso.
that restlessly that they have, do good for this country, and we cannot think in another way, because in our history, young people are the ones who have played the main role, and the young people from this time are not different. They have this
Comparten ese
air,
patrimonio.
they share this patrimony.
Los mambises,
Who were the Mambises?
y hay ejemplos paradigmáticos.
And there are paradigmatic examples.
El joven Agra,
The young Céspedes, the young Agramontes, the young Maceo,
nuestros grandes pensadores,
our big thinkers, just like the young Martís, with 16 years in a model prison
injustamente encarcelados,
and justly incarcerated because defending conviction.
vamos ahí, hacemos
And whenever we went to the
a su madre,
fire,
que solo ha escrito un joven,
the torch march, we went to the place where he was in prison with just 17 years, and our scientists, the ones who did the revolution of the 33, the generation of centenary, the revolution,
la generación de jóvenes que en los 60
the young people generation
la agresión
that in the existed
campaña del
faced the aggression against Iran, Bay of Pigs, and they lived
generaciones que eran
the
jóvenes,
crisis of the missiles.
cuando se cayó el
The generation of people that lived a special period when the socialist countries
jóvenes ahora.
were destroyed, and the young people for nowadays, could we have had this unity without the participation of the young people?
Lo que pasa es que hay algunos que
What happened is something they just speak about the ones that have left the country, the ones that
con la revolución
the ones that have broke. Not many of them have broken with the revolution. On the contrary, many of them are committed.
regresado,
How many have come back?
cuántos están preocupados,
How many are concerned about our situation?
cuántos están manifestándose.
How many are speaking about against the aggression?
Entonces confiamos
Then we are confident on these young people. And which is the best sample?
los valores de toda esa juventud.
What gives the values of these young people? The 32. This is our young people.
Son presentes
And they are present and future of this nation. They are present and future of the homeland. And we have to take care of them.
Bueno, presidente, si usted
Well, President, if you
si no tiene algo
don't
que
have
desea,
anything else,
quedarnos con el compromiso,
I
porque
will
seguramente
say
también hay
to
otros periodistas
have the
que han
commitment,
interesado
because
y
there are
comentan,
other
como usted dice, demandan mucha
other media that are interested. And at the moment you said, there are many things I have to explain here that I have no detail.
seguimiento con otros
I can follow with another comrade from the government and the Communist Party that are topics that they can just talk more about it,
que incide mucho en la vida cotidiana.
because they are something that is in the daily life of Cuba. And thank you very much for coming in here, for your time, patience, and energy.
We were live to Cuba this hour listening to statements of Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, who reaffirmed his rejection to foreign threats and actions that seek to undermine the sovereignty of the nation. This amid the intensification of the United States blockade, following also the imposition of an oil ban on supplying countries. In this context, the Cuban president assured that these and similar measures of economic suffocation have failed to collapse the nation for decades, and also took the opportunity to thank the outpour of international support. In this scenario, the president also reaffirmed that Cuba is a country of peace and is willing to dialogue with Washington, but on equal terms and based on respect for the island's sovereignty. In this opportunity as well, the president highlighted the role of the people and particularly the youth in sustaining the nation amidst the complex energy scenario, while also mentioning the government's efforts to tackle the effects of this crisis for the population to suffer as little as possible from the consequences of the genocidal measures against Cuba. There is much to be defended, he said, with courage and bravery. Cuba will prevail. This is all for the moment. Stay tuned with teleSUR English for more information.